What's up guys, time making a simple dripping overnight brisket. Let's get it. I picked up this prime brisket from my local Wild Fork. What you're going to do is you're going to throw this in the freezer for an hour so it firms up. This will be a lot easier to trim if it's a little cold and frozen somewhat, but not all the way through. You're going to slice the packaging on the decal fat so you don't cut into the meat. Then you're just going to work your knife through this plastic without making any slices. You're going to lay this out on your cutting board. You're going to cut this little fin off. I'm going to start with the top side. I'll explain why. You're going to just trim out this decal fat. A good friend of mine told me to trim this brisket like a skateboard. You want it to be pretty even all the way through and in the same shape. I don't cook a lot of briskets. You'd be lucky if you get one out of me a year, so I took her advice on this. The past experiences I've had, I've always had it cook in a weird shape, so I'm just going to trim this as she told me. You're going to make this end cut here because this part's too thin and it'll burn or it'll be misshapen. It'll be no good. You don't want it in there. So you're just going to trim this around. This is why I start with this side, so I can see how much fat I need to trim off the flat. You can clearly see there's probably about 1.5 inches of fat. So when we flip this over, we're going to trim anywhere down to 1/4 inch of fat. You're just going to keep working your knife. Now we're going to flip this over and we're just going to start to take these big slabs of fat off. Don't throw this away. We're going to be making tallow as this brisket cooks, because in the wrapping process, we are going to wrap with the beef tallow. Once everything's trimmed on the back, I did remove all the fat from the point so this would lay flat. Just going to work around so everything's aerodynamic. This is where I gouge the living shit out of this. So after this, I just hung it up. I didn't want to make it any worse, because sometimes when you just keep going with your knife, you wind up making a lot of mistakes, and you just kind of want to avoid that. We paid a lot of money for this cut of beef. We're just going to run it the way it is. You're going to drizzle some worse than your sister sauce over the top of the back of this, and then I'm going to season this with the classic salt and pepper. Make sure it's coarse. I think this seasoning's like a 16 mesh pepper or whatever the f they recommend. Don't be afraid to hit this hot and heavy. This big cut of meat needs a lot of seasoning so you can taste that barbecue flavor all the way through. You're going to repeat the process on the top side. Don't forget to season the sides. It's a crucial step. While your smoker heats up, you're going to let this hang out in your cutting board for at least an hour. If you have a cold brisket, let it come up to room temp. That might take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. You judge it. It is your money. At the end of the day, I really don't give a f. My friend told me if I was cooking this overnight to put a water pan underneath this and cook this fat side up. The object is, while I'm sleeping, the water pan will keep the top of the flat and the top of the point moist. If you are monitoring this cook, I recommend cooking this fat side down, letting that go undisturbed for 3 hours, and then start spritzing every 30 to 45 minutes. I woke up the next day, I was probe tender. This took me around 10 hours. You're going to throw this on some foil. You're going to drizzle that beef tallow over the top and around the sides. Make sure you lift up the brisket so the beef tallow goes underneath. You're going to wrap this up like a 3-year-old. You want to rest this for at least 1 hour. I recommend holding it for anywhere from 4 to 5 hours. I know that seems like a lot, but the longer the rest, the better the result. You're going to pull this gently out of the aluminum foil. You're going to drizzle that tallow and au jus over the top of this. I love doing this because as you slice it, more of that flavor will drip down between both slices. Now we're back at the beginning of the video. As you guys remember, this brisket was dripping. It was phenomenal. You're going to make sure you cut this against the grain. I'm cutting a few pieces a little thicker for some tacos. Then I'm going to slice a few thin. I'm telling you guys, this brisket was the best I ever cooked. Huge shout out to my friend Bridge. I'll tag her down below. Her brisket walkthroughs are a lot more detailed than mine. Definitely check her out. Remember guys, you can find this full recipe on my website.